Jason Spears here with DoctorPremed.com. Wanted to share a little bit about myself, my background, so everybody knows where I'm coming from. I'm currently a fourth year medical student in New York, and I'm very proud to have started Dr. Premed to help other students get into medical school, realize their dreams of becoming a doctor. And actually, how I got started with this website, I went to undergrad at Northwestern University in Evanston, Illinois, and I was a president of the Pre-Med Society there. So one of the things that we would do is Northwestern's in a quarter system. So in the winter quarter, we would bring in a prominent speaker. Those could be previous surgeon generals or just very prominent physicians that are nationally known. And so we did that in the winter quarter. And then in the spring quarter, we would have a medical school day where we would invite the medical schools from across the country, basically having a college fair except for medical schools. So all the pre-med students at Northwestern and throughout the Chicagoland area could come and meet all the AdComs and kind of figure out what they need to get into medical school. And me being the president of the Pre-Med Society for 2 years or so, I kind of really got to make connections with these individuals and kind of find out what they're really looking for in potential applicants to medical school and what we as pre-med students at the time could be doing to better our background and get into medical school. And so what happened then after I graduated, a lot of my friends would come up to me like, hey, Jason, what do I need to do to get into medical school? Or I have questions about this. What do you know? How can you help me out with XYZ? And I gladly gave out advice helping students out with that because it was just something I knew was just second nature, automatic for me to just think what a student needed to do to better themselves to get into medical school. So I did that. And then I realized a lot of my classmates, they were asking the same questions over and over again. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. I'm seeing a lot of the same questions. So what can I do to make this better for other people? And I'm a very practical guy. I like to be efficient about things. So I said, why not start a website that would be accessible 24/7, 365 days a week? So that way, if I'm not available or if I'm doing something, somebody can still find that information. And that's kind of how Dr. Premed got started. That's actually how it did get started. And then, so from there, I was working on the website. And here's a little bit about me. So I'm currently a medical student. I'm in my fourth year of medical school right now. And one of the things is I came into college knowing I wanted to go to medical school, but I was also a political science major at Northwestern. But what I would do, what a lot of the pre-med students what we do at Northwestern, you can't do this anymore, is we would actually go to Harvard summer school and take our pre-med classes because they were easier than at Northwestern. So I did over half of my pre-med coursework at Harvard University over the summers. I took biology, organic chemistry over 2 different summers, and I was also doing research at the Howard Hughes Medical Institute at Massachusetts General Hospital. That's probably the most famous hospital in the country. I was working with Dr. Bruce Walker at the Partners AIDS Research Center, so I had some background in doing HIV research. That was a very novel experience for me. That was, excuse me, after my freshman year of college and undergrad. So I was exposed to Boston and obviously decided to come back for those other courses. But what I want to share in regards to everything with applying to medical school. So I was president of Pre-Med Society. I had all these wonderful contacts throughout the whole AdComs at some of the top medical schools throughout the country. And then I went to apply to medical school and things weren't going so well. I was sending out applications, doing the secondaries, most secondaries to come automatically to you. And as things would progress, I wasn't getting interviews. Now, I was very concerned about this. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. I took the MCAT, did very well on the MCAT, actually got a recruiting letter from Harvard Medical School based on my MCAT score that they wanted me to apply to their medical school. So that shows like I do know my sciences and things like that. And it was just very confusing as a process went on. I'm like, okay, maybe I have too many upper tier schools, so I'll kind of switch around where I'm applying to and add some lower tier institutions. Again, nothing's happening. The needle's not moving forward. I'm getting really concerned. And the mantra I had, it only takes one. All I need is just one acceptance. That's all I need. And I was waiting in the last school, and then in February, I got that final email saying that I was denied an interview. And obviously, if you don't get an interview, you're not getting into medical school. And that totally crushed me because I was a guy who was pre-med from day one, dead set on being a physician, and then just have to deal with this was very tough. And it's like, okay, what am I going to do? What are the next steps I need to take? And I was thinking, okay, maybe it's because I was a poli-sci major, I could do more sciences and things like that to be more competitive, because I knew with Northwestern how tough it is. My GPA wasn't the best, where I actually got killed. Well, not killed, but organic chemistry freshman year at Northwestern was a huge adjustment. Excuse me, I'm saying organic chemistry when it was actually general chemistry. That was a huge adjustment for me, and just the caliber of the coursework and requirements for that wasn't something I was used to from coming out of high school. I went to a public high school in Pennsylvania. So, and then Northwestern, you have a lot of kids who have went to private schools, prep schools, and they just have every resource available to them. So it was a struggle and a huge adjustment, and wondering if I can compete with these guys. Can I get through the process? And I was able to graduate on time, didn't have any issues with that, from Northwestern with my poli-sci degree and everything like that, then taking my pre-med stuff at Harvard. And so I was thinking, okay, maybe I should plan B, since I didn't get into medical school. I definitely want to be a physician. I want to be a doctor, so I need to take more science courses. So I started applying to post-bac programs, even master level programs as well. And it was interesting during that process. One of the schools told me, they're like, Jason, we think there's something wrong with your application. I'm like, what do you mean? Because actually, what I did, I sent them my AMCAS application. They're like, we took a review of it, and it just doesn't seem like everything's correct. You need to really have AMCAS. That's American Medical College Application Service. If you're pre-med, you're going to get very familiar with them when you apply to medical school. Take a look at your application and see what's going on with that. So I'm kind of confused about this. No one else had ever told me anything about it. So I contacted the AMCAS, spoke to a representative, and they're like, we're going to have to look into things. Just bear with us. And then, excuse me, and then they told me, okay, it looks like we're going to have to move this up the chain of command to one of our supervisors, and we'll be in touch within the next 2 weeks or so to explain what any findings that we have in regards to your AMCAS application for medical school. And so, like, okay, I was patient, let the process play out, and then I would learn 2 weeks later that I got an email from AMCAS stating that they made an error in my medical school application. They made an error. They gave me 0 credit hours for all of my Harvard summer courses, which was over 50% of my pre-med requirements for medical school. So all the medical schools I was applying to, it looked like this is a guy, major in poli-sci, doesn't even have half of the requirements to get into medical school. We're not going to let him in. And so that was shocking. I was very upset. Had a whole roller coaster of emotions. My friends were saying, you need to sue AMCAS. You need to go after them. This shouldn't happen and stuff like that. I kind of thought about it. I'm not even sure if I looked at it into a lawyer or anything like that. But I really just took some time to reflect and say, you know what? I already missed out. Whatever lawsuit happens isn't going to change the fact that I'm not in medical school right now. And so it was just really tough. And I had this gap here. I wasn't doing anything. And so I did get into grad school. I went to Boston University, received my Master of Arts in Medical Science, where I took the first year medical school courses and did well in that program. But then going back to the AMCAS thing, what actually happened, this is a fluke. It's probably never going to happen again. Will never happen to you. I don't know why this happened to me, is that Northwestern's on a quarter system and Harvard is on a semester system. So when they were converting the courses over, it didn't go through. So if you actually looked at my application, like the paper copy, it had the courses listed but didn't have credits. And the one thing that medical schools do, because some schools receive over 12,000 applications each year for about 120 seats in their class, they use computers to screen applicants. So the computer is going to just have some algorithm programmed in there, and if you don't meet the minimum standard, your application's automatically going to be tossed. And so that's what happened with my application for all the medical schools, is they just looked at it with the computer. Actually, no human saw it, and they're just like, okay, this guy doesn't even meet our basic requirements for getting into medical school. And then I was obviously denied. So then I went to the grad school at a great time in Boston. So with grad school, we worked extremely, extremely hard, and it was really rewarding. I actually wrote a thesis. We had an option to do either library-based thesis or laboratory-based thesis. I just went with the library-based thesis. I wrote it on C-sections and the increasing incidence of those in the United States, and then the implications for the mother and neonate. Not unbeknownst to me that about 4 or 5 years later, as I'm in my 4th year of medical school, or when I was even on my 3rd year rotations doing OB-GYN, I just fell in love with the specialty, and now I'm going to be going into OB-GYN as the plan right now to pursue that as my medical career, to be an OB-GYN and deliver the babies. So I'm really excited about that, the process and everything with that. And right now, in the process of applying to residency programs. I totally know what you guys are going through as a pre-med student. I'm at a different level, obviously. I went through the gauntlet of just getting into medical school, everything like that. And now I'm here just living a dream, just love every day of it, going to the hospital, interacting with patients. A little unnerving for me is I don't like getting pimped on the rounds by the physicians, but it's something that's just expected of you. So if you're out there, here's a study tip. Get used to talking about what you're learning and what you're reviewing, because that's the biggest way that you're going to learn once you're in your medical career. Just as your 3rd and 4th year of medical school, then in residency, you're not going to have as many paper tests. Obviously, you're going to still have those paper tests, and you're going to have to pass your board exams. But one of the biggest ways that teaching happens in medicine is going to actually be face to face with your attending, and they're going to just pimp you on questions, ask you the disease process, the mechanism, what your differential diagnoses are. So what are some other things that potentially going wrong with the patient, and all of that. What's your treatment? What's the gold standard? Medications, all of it. It seems overwhelming, and obviously it was overwhelming when I first started medical school. But then you kind of get the hang of it. You understand what's going on. You can figure out what physicians are looking for. You know the disease processes. So it's just a matter of recall and just studying up on the material and make sure you're doing well with it. And so I'm just really excited to share a little bit about my background with you, and like how I kind of got started with DoctorPremed.com. And I'm just really excited to just have this as the #1 place that you can go to as a pre-med and get all the information and advice that you need to successfully go from pre-med to medical student. You definitely need to sign up for my newsletter. I send that out. There's a lot of great tips and advice, stuff that you can't find anywhere else on DoctorPremed.com. And a lot of students say they really enjoy that newsletter when it comes out, because I talk about life in medical school, what's happening in the hospital. I'll go over some current events, and obviously one of the biggest factors is I give you the tips and advice that you need to be successful as a pre-med. Or it's basically, I consider it your pre-med roadmap, where I'm putting your pre-med years on autopilot, where you don't have to think about anything, you don't have to second guess yourself. Everything's right there for you. And so if you're one of those people who procrastinates, I'm going to be on you. I'm going to be saying, okay, it's 3 months before AMCAS opens up. You need to start working on your personal statement. Here's a schedule that you need to have for your MCAT, and we'll just go through the whole overall process. And okay, you're starting college and you're pre-med. Here's the extracurricular activities to get involved in that are actually going to make a difference, that AdComs are going to look at, and really can position yourself to be a competitive applicant and get outside of being a cookie cutter pre-med student. So there's a whole bunch in there, and I probably should talk about this, why medicine, why I want to go into medicine and all of that, because that's one thing that you're going to have to know as a pre-med student. Anytime, as soon as you declare your pre-med, you need to have like a 3 minute or like a 30-second pitch of why do you want to be a physician. Just imagine yourself, you're in an elevator, and then the ad com from the top medical school that you want to go to steps in that elevator, and you only have 30 seconds before it gets to the sixth floor, and the AdCom gets off to make your case for why you want to be a doctor and get admitted to medical school. So my story is, when I was 8 years old or so, one telephone call would forever change the dynamics of my family, and that was my grandpa was calling to let us know that my grandma, on the maternal side of my family, she was being rushed to the hospital, and subsequently she would have a brain aneurysm, and life would never be the same. She would be in the hospital, have multiple surgeries, and then spend time in a nursing home until her death about, I think it was like 8 years later. And so my whole life kind of just changed. Our whole family life changed in regards to that, because it wasn't going to the zoo, wasn't going to the park, it wasn't going to amusement parks or anything like that. Trips to visit my grandparents meant the hospital and nursing home. So that just really changed things. And a year or two later, after my grandmother had her brain aneurysm, my paternal grandmother, so my dad's mom, she had a stroke. And so that was really hard on us to have like both of the grandmothers terminally ill with these conditions, and just being in the hospital, nursing homes really gave me that exposure to medicine. And I thought, okay, I'm seeing what the doctors are doing, all this, and I'm pretty young. I kind of need to figure out what I want to do with my life. And I thought, okay, maybe I'll do medicine. That seems like a very good career. You help people, you make a difference, and all of that. Obviously, as a young kid, you can't make a decision like, oh, I want to be a doctor because of something that happened as 8 years old. And so you have to be informed about it. So this is kind of going into a little being strategic about things. So I found a mentor back home who was an anesthesiologist, and I would spend a lot of time with him, shadow him in the hospital, in the OR when he was pre-rounding on patients for surgery. I really got more exposure to medicine. And then for my high school senior project, we had to do something to graduate. And I actually did mine on epidural anesthesiology. Maybe that's kind of the whole pitch of me going into OB-GYN, because those expected moms usually want their epidural before they deliver. And so when you put all the pieces together, maybe it was that's where I'm headed at with life and everything like that. But having I wrote about that in my personal statement as why I want to go into medicine, and saying that yes, things happen to me at a young age, but I'm more informed about it if I took these steps by finding a mentor, and I'm just getting exposure so I can make a mature decision about whether medicine is really for me and something that I want to do. And a lot of students talk about, yes, they want to help people. That's good. That's great. So you can say that, but that can't be the overall theme of your medical school personal statement, because it's pretty obvious that that's what, if you're going to go into medicine, that's what you need to do. So you need to take a step beyond that. And I know I'm talking for a lot, just want to give you some background information on me. On a personal note, I'll just share a little bit about my family. Grew up my mom and dad, and then I had three siblings. I actually have an identical twin brother. I'm the older one. I'm by a couple minutes because born by a C-section, and I'm pursuing medicine, obviously fourth year medical student here. And my twin brother, he's a lawyer, so that's very interesting when people hear that. And then I have an older sister and a younger sister, and I always grew up with pets in the house. We've had dogs, and the last two dogs that we had have been beagles. So that seems to be the thing that's been going on in our family for over, oh my goodness, probably 20 years or so now that I think about it. There's been a beagle in the house. So that's just a little side note about me. And on a personal level, when I'm not doing medical stuff, medicine stuff, I'm into politics. As I said, I majored in poli sci at undergrad. I like technology a lot, and I also like cars. At my hospital orientation, when we started third year of medical school, one of the questions was like kind of an icebreaker get to know you was, okay, if you weren't in medicine, you had to do something else, what would you do? I know as a pre-med and you're on an interview trail for medical school, you're going to say, no, there is no other option. I'm definitely doing medicine regardless. I don't care anything, what happens. I'll just reapply or do something else to enhance my credentials again in medical school. That's what you typically say as a interview candidate for medical school. But once you're in and you're like all the way through the process, third year, you've been through a lot pretty much. You're gonna be more like forthright and direct about it. And I tell people, if I wasn't in the medical field or anything like that, what I would do, which I think is really interesting or fun, would be I would be like an Indy race car driver. I like cars, and I think it's just really cool just to move at a high rate of speed and everything like that. So that would allow me to drive fast without getting in trouble with the law or anything like that. So I would be an Indy race car driver if I wasn't doing medicine. And I do have a lot of interest outside of medicine. Just obviously one of them is right here is just, as you're listening to me now, is just helping you get to the next step and where you want to be in life, getting into medical school, being a great doctor. And that's, I hope, that you gain out of visiting DoctorPremed.com. I just wanted to share this information with you so you know who's writing all these articles. I'm going to actually put up more videos, so now you have a better understanding of the guy behind Dr. Premed and how I can help you, my background, my experience, because I was in your shoes, so I totally know what you're going through. I was a reapplicant to medical school because of that fluke. What happened with me, I did the grad school route, aka the post-bac program, so I know about that and just have a lot of contacts and reference to getting into medical school. And when you think about things with me, I say my approach is different because when I share advice and give you tips on what you need to do, it's not just coming from me. It's a hodgepodge. I call it the pre-med dream team because you're getting those adcoms, pre-health advisors, medical students, physicians. And so I just put all of that information together for you so you're getting the best advice possible to help you get where you need to be in the least amount of time with the least amount of stress, because the goal is to get into medical school. And I just wish you all the best, and feel free to reach out to me. I'm very responsive to emails, everything like that. So look forward to everything, and thank you for visiting me again. Jason Spears at DoctorPremed.com. Take care.